All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a little 49er video. Could the Niners be on the verge of adding Zach Wilson? And is that a good thing or a bad thing? We'll talk about it coming up next. But first, we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out in Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. Pig and a Pickle. Go get the brisket. Go get the brisket chili. Go say hi to Damon and Mary. Tell them that Larry Krueger sent you. We're also brought to you by Marin Autoglass, marinautoglass.com on the web. Check them out. If you need a windshield, they can help you out. And, of course, Underdog Fantasy. Check the link in the description. Use the promo code KRUG, KRUEG, and they will match you up to your first $100. And don't forget ValleyHillRoofing.net and Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles. Call Anthony Catania, 831-521-5264. All right, you look at the 49ers. They've done a lot in free agency. If you look at their roster, they've filled a lot of their needs. The Niners don't have a ton of needs left to be filled. They've added Leonard Floyd and Yatir Gross-Matos at defensive end. They've added Jordan Elliott and Malik Collins at defensive tackle. They've added Devondre Campbell at linebacker, Ezekiel Turner at special teams, along with Chase Lucas at special teams. Isaac Yadam, the corner from BC, pretty good little ad. So they've got some veteran depth there at corner. They don't have tons of needs remaining. Now, obviously, everybody knows they need an offensive tackle, and they may need an offensive guard. Heck, they may decide they need a center if they don't feel like Brendel's good enough long term. They need to rebuild the right side of their offensive line in this draft. They also need a wide receiver, and they could use a couple of pieces on defense. You know, maybe one extra backer, one extra corner, one extra safety, one extra D lineman, something like that. But they also need a quarterback. And Brock Purdy's your one. Brandon Allen is there. He's either there as the number 2, like he was 2 years ago for Joe Burrow, or the number 3, like he was last year behind Purdy and Sam Darnold. Darnold has moved on to the Vikings for $10 million. So the Niners need a third quarterback. Who's that going to be? If they want to go sign a free agent, they could go sign Carson Wentz. I think that would be a great signing. I think adding Carson Wentz would be a terrific addition. He's beaten the Niners 4 times. He's big. He's mobile. I think he's underrated. I think he's got some good football ahead. He's not old. To me, Carson Wentz would be a great free agent signing for the 49ers. You make Wentz number 2 and Purdy number 1, and Brandon Allen slides back into that 3 hole, and away you go. Other people would say, no, go get somebody out of the draft. You know, a lot of people like Joe Milton, who's got huge talent. Michael Pratt from Tulane had a real good year, but you're probably going to have to invest like a 4th-round pick if you want to get a guy like Pratt or Milton for that matter, probably a 4th or a 5th. Do they want to invest that high of a pick? And then there's Zach Wilson. You know, Zach Wilson is out there in trade. And according to reports, the 49ers are interested in trading for Zach Wilson. And immediately everybody's like, no, God, no, he's terrible, this and that. He has not been good. He made a bad decision where instead of just saying, hey, you know what, it was on me in the offense, he seemed to kind of shift the blame. And you never want to do that in a market like New York City. He may have lost guys in the locker room. He may have lost the media. That was a bad decision. The other problem Zach Wilson's had is that at BYU, he played from a clean pocket. In the NFL, there is no playing from a clean pocket. You're always playing from a muddy pocket. You're always playing from a pocket where there's bodies around you. And Zach Wilson has had some good moments, and he's had some bad moments because he doesn't look quite comfortable in the pocket. But you know he wants to play for Shanahan. From what I've been told, Shanahan really likes him as a player. So, and that you might be able to get Zach Wilson for like, you know, Zach Wilson and your, like a 6th-round pick to the Jets for Zach Wilson and a 7th-round pick. I mean, that's a pretty low bar. That's a pretty low cost. So I like the idea of Wilson. people would say, well, you're Krug, you're crazy. Why? Tell us why. Well, I'm going to give you glimpses. We've gotten glimpses of really good play. 2 games ago for Wilson, he played December 10th against the Houston Texans. D'Amico Ryans is a pretty good defense. The Jets won that game 30-6. Zach Wilson in that game, 27 of 36 for 301 yards. He completed 75% of his passes, 2 touchdowns, no picks, 117.9 rating. Had 3 runs for 12 yards. Had a 10-yard run and threw for 300 yards, and they won. Pretty good little start right there. Then go back further. He's had some other decent games this year. Against Kansas City, the world champion Chiefs, 28 of 39. So he completed 72%. 245 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. 2 carries for 14 yards. He had a 105.2 rating. It's against the world champion Chiefs. So I'm just saying, Zach Wilson, I know a lot of people look at those numbers and go, well, he's completed about 60%. He has had some games, though. 71.8% against Kansas City. We'll call that 72. 73.1% against Denver on the road. That's pretty damn good. 75% against the Texans. 300 yards in the game that the last game he played, he went 4 of 11 against Miami for 26 yards and no interceptions, but he was sacked 4 times. This is also a guy who's been sacked a lot, too, by the way. 46 sacks this year. He was sacked 8 times in the Charger game. I mean, he has operated behind a bad line with young weapons. He wasn't properly supported. And now you can get him for nothing. I would. I absolutely would. Like, what's a better option? Carson Wentz or Zach Wilson? Well, I don't know. I mean, Carson Wentz has had a lot of years to get it together. He hasn't gotten it together. What's a better option? Zach Wilson or an NFL draft choice? Well, I'm not really sure about that. I mean, look at, obviously there's the quarterbacks that the Niners would never take, which would be all the top quarterbacks, right? They're not taking Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, J.J. McCarthy, Michael Penix, Bo Nix. They're not taking any of those guys in the first couple rounds. They're looking at the rest of the crew. So is Zach Wilson better than Spencer Rattler? I would say yeah. Is Zach Wilson a better prospect than Michael Pratt? I like Michael Pratt a lot, but it's probably going to have to use your 4th-round pick on him, so he cost a lot more. Joe Milton is 6'5", 250 with a gun. He's got huge talent, but there's a lot of development left. He's probably a 5th-round pick. Jordan Travis from Florida State, good athlete, probably a 5th-round pick. Sam Hartman from Notre Dame, he's not bad. I like Sam Hartman, who's good at Wake, good at Notre Dame. Might not be bad. But you're still talking about a 6th-round pick, 5th, 6th-round pick. Devin Leary, Carter Bradley, Austin Reed, all decent quarterbacks. Probably going to be, day 2 picks, 6th round, 7th round, something like that. Somebody said, how about Slovis from BYU? Oh, he stinks. I can't watch Slovis. He's terrible. The kid who was at SC and he's moved around and just every year he gets worse and worse and worse. So, yeah, the Niners did look at Slovis. I can't imagine they like him that much. But I'm just saying, Zach Wilson makes some sense. And then you go and you look at all these quarterbacks that started slow and finished fast. Steve Young, Roger Staubach, endless guys, really. I mean, there's, you name it. I mean, almost every Hall of Fame quarterback, it took a while. Steve Young wasn't good till he was 31. Roger Staubach, some of these guys, they weren't good for a long time. And finally got it together in their late 20s. The Hall of Fame has about 10 different quarterbacks that weren't good in their 20s that became good, in their 30s. Or they weren't good in their early 20s, that's for sure, and they became good in their late 20s. I'm not saying Zach Wilson's going to be great. I'm just saying there's a chance. If you really look around the NFL, the Jets gave Wilson permission to seek a trade. He makes $5.4 million, which is, last year you paid Sam Darnold $5 million. Is he better than Sam Darnold? I think he probably is. I think he's probably better than Sam Darnold. So, I mean, ultimately, you look at some of these quarterbacks. Alex Smith going into 2011 was 19-31, and he was good in Kansas City. Troy Aikman, first 3 seasons, 14-24. Steve Young in his first 2 seasons with Tampa, 3-16, 11 touchdowns, 23 picks. Roger Staubach had 3 touchdowns and 10 interceptions in his first 2 years. Dan Fouts, first 5 years, he went 12-30-1 with 34 touchdowns and 57 interceptions. Eventually, all these guys went to the Hall of Fame. I mean, not Alex Smith, but Aikman, Young, Staubach, Fouts. Sonny Jurgensen wasn't good until 27. Kurt Warner, didn't bust out till he was 28. Lenny Dawson wasn't good until he was 27. These guys are all in the Hall of Fame. So all I'm saying is there's a lot of young quarterbacks around the NFL that people think are busts. Zach Wilson's a bust. Mac Jones is a bust. Sam Darnold, Kenny Pickett, Justin Fields, Kyler Murray, Daniel Jones, Davis Mills, Sam Howell, Trey Lance, Jake Browning, Drew Lock, Bryce Young to this moment, Malik Willis, Desmond Ritter, Aiden O'Connell. There's 15 or 16 guys there that are all in their early to mid-20s. Somebody from that list is going to be good. And maybe Zach Wilson's the guy. And since you can get him for nothing and he's got a pretty good skill set, why not do it? Why not do it? I would do it. To me, if I was Shanahan and I could get Zach Wilson in a 7th for my 6th round pick, yes, I'm doing that. I'm not worried about paying him the $5 million. You still got the cheapest quarterback room in the entire league. I think he wants to go somewhere where there's an offensive coach and some offensive weapons, and he can kind of refine himself and his rhythm. I'd give him that chance. I actually think that I still believe that Trey Lance is going to be pretty good. I think Mac Jones will find it. I think Kyler Murray's going to be good. And I think Zach Wilson's still going to be good. It started really, really badly for him. And everybody's of that mindset if he can't play dead. He can't play dead looking back, but how about going forward? What's he going to do in this system with these players, with Shanahan calling the plays? I think Zach Wilson is a better prospect than Sam Darnold, and Darnold was a decent backup last year for $5 million. Pay Zach Wilson the 5.4, get him for nothing, put him on your bench, and see what happens. See if you can develop him. And if he gets good, great. Now you've got an asset that you can trade. Or if he gets good and Purdy gets hurt, now you got somebody who can play. But either way, football fans are very fatalistic. It's like you can't play until you can. Testaverde was a bust until Testaverde went to Baltimore and Jets, and suddenly he was pretty good. And, Alex Smith was terrible early on. By the end, he was borderline good enough to win the Chiefs a Super Bowl. I mean, he was a top tier NFL quarterback. I don't know if he was, a Hall of Famer, but if he hadn't gotten hurt, I think Alex Smith potentially could have, competed and won a Super Bowl. And then some of these other guys like Aikman and Young and Staubach, these guys all are in the Hall of Fame, and they all started slow. So I like Zach Wilson. I would definitely go for him if you can get him. And I understand the people that are like, oh, God, he stinks. But just remember, when he's good, you heard it here first. Because I think the kid's eventually going to figure it out, and he's going to be pretty decent. All right, thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Thanks to all of our sponsors, and thanks to all of you guys for supporting the Krug Show on YouTube.